All right, children, let's start with the letter M. M. M is minimum. We've already established that before. And what it means, right? It means doing the least amount of effort possible. Now, there's a key distinction here. You have effort and you have resources. The idea here is minimum in both senses. When you look at the definition, it's not particularly helpful because it doesn't differentiate between the two. But resources could be your time, other people's time. It could be physical money. It could be assets, objects, capital. Things like cash, coupons you have, gift cards, other people's time that you use or favors that you cash in. Resources is just any amount of an asset, and it's a very loose definition of asset, that you can use. So we want to minimize that. We also want to minimize effort. So we're always going to take the shortest point from A to B. We don't want to go to A to B to C all the way to Z and around. We just want to take the simplest way to getting to validation. Now, in the MVP acronym, can you guess what's the most important? You guys are geniuses. It's because we're in the M lecture and I asked you the question. It's M. M is the most important by far. The biggest thing you can do to guarantee that you are not wasting your time and wasting your resources is to follow the M almost religiously. Minimum, 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 minimum. If you're not doing the absolute minimum, then you know that you're wasting time. A lot of scenarios where that's perfectly fine. Sometimes it's up to you. But if you're really serious, you need to make sure that you are doing the bare bones and it's not worth putting bells and whistles. Now let's address the biggest kickback you get when you think minimum, minimum, minimum. If I send out a web page or a product and it's so minimum that it's hideous or it's ugly or it's even like unusable, how exactly is that gonna, do you any justice? A lot of people think that if they do that, no one's gonna buy it, right? Because if they see it and it's ugly, they'll think that, oh, the quality's terrible and I don't wanna buy it. Now that's okay that you had those thoughts. Everybody has those thoughts at first, but you could not be more wrong. What's that? You can make a really ugly product and still validate it? Yes, absolutely you can. It's a little counterintuitive if you don't know it, but I need to explain a businessy concept to you that'll really help you understand this. Have you heard of the product adoption curve? It's a curve that describes, as products are developed, how the general population adopts them. Now you see in the curve at the very beginning, it looks like not a lot of people are adopting it. And then later as we go farther into time and the product develops, more people do, then more people do, then more people do, and then finally the laggards come on. Generally, this curve is used to describe technology because a lot of people, especially older generations, are slow to adopt new technology. But it actually describes all products, and that's why it's so useful, and that's why the term is used constantly outside of technology. Now you can see on the graph, it's divided into 5 sections. You have the innovators, the early adopters, the early majority, the late majority, and the laggards. Now you don't really need to concern yourself with the early majority, late majority, and the laggards. Those are basically people that would pick this up way later. Early majority is like your older sister figuring out what Snapchat is, and then the late majority is like your mom figuring out what Snapchat is, and then like laggard would be like pretty much your grandma figuring out what Snapchat is. I really don't know if I like that idea of my grandma using Snapchat, but that's how the curve goes. Now the first 2 groups are really the only ones we want to concern ourselves with. First group is called the innovators. Those are the people who will buy anything out of the gate. These people generally do not care if other people are using it or buying it. In general, the innovators are the purest group out there. They will use something if they like it, period. Doesn't matter if other people use it, and they don't really even care what it looks like. Early adopters are similar to this. They're okay with using new things that aren't perfectly polished and well-funded, but generally they're gonna wait till maybe version 2, maybe version 3. So in general, the adoption curve, that's what it looks like. So can you guess, if you're doing an MVP, who are we going after? We're going after the innovators. Yes, the innovators, not the early adopters. And that's where people make this mental mistake. They think early adopters are who they're going after, and early adopters have somewhat of a threshold of quality and presentation to get them to purchase something. Now the innovators, God bless them, are people who do not give 2 shits about what your application looks like, how fancy your buttons are, Is it broken? How many subpages does it have? How many people are tweeting it out? They will use it if it breaks. They will use it if it's hideous. They will use it if that thing just yells insults at them all day. They're the people that just really want to use it. They really associate with the problem that you're trying to solve. These people just block everything out. As long as they're getting value from the service, they will use it. So when I say minimal, I mean minimal. Why? Because the people we're gonna be targeting don't care about fancy features, bells and whistles, or amazing graphic design. Your MVP is going to be ugly, okay? Get used to it. The quote that you have to live by is that if you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you launch too late. So, minimum. Why minimum? Because the people we're targeting do not care. Is it going to be ugly? Yes. Does it matter? No. We're not going after the early adopters. We're going after the innovators who make everything possible. Those crazy people who will jump on anything as long as they like it. All right, let's move on to V.